It is Karen Murphy here. Now, Janelle I've known for just over 2 years, and she is a dead set legend. I love this lady. We have a lot of fun. We always joke, sometimes pick on each other, but more than anything, we always support each other. She's my go-to, I'm her go-to, and I'm just so privileged that she's taking the time out to share her incredible story. So Janelle, can you first start by sharing a little bit about your background, maybe what it is that you do or you've done for work, and a little bit about your health journey and your health background?
Yeah, so background is mainly admin work and driving trucks. They go well together, don't they? So I used to actually drive trucks in coal mining. I did that for 5 years before having kids, and I loved doing that, but my health declined by doing that. So night shifts, 12-hour days, sitting on your bum for that long. You know, you could do 10 hours on the clock driving around in those trucks and sitting there that long started taking its toll on me. And I used to have a bad lower back, but it got worse when I drove trucks, purely because you're sitting for so long. And I had open heart surgery at the age of 3. So that was a big thing for obviously a family, well, my family, my mum and dad and my sisters and stuff at that age. And then I started getting fatigued a lot, you know, more so when I was driving trucks. And this is where I didn't know at the time, sleep issues and adrenal fatigue happened. So at the time, I didn't know the correlation between sitting on your bottom for so long and being stagnant and not having an active lifestyle, what that was doing to me. And my health was declining. I was someone who would take a long time to go to sleep at night. And then when I'd get up in the morning, I would be yawning, rubbing my eyes and dragging myself out of bed for at least 30 minutes, just purely going, oh my God, do I have to get up now? Then by about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I would have those slumps like most mums or most females do. Our body starts to shut down. And so by 3 o'clock, I'd be falling asleep on the couch. And at the time, because I had 2 little girls at home with me, so I just thought that was mum life. I thought that was just the way that life was. And just took it as being a young mum, this is what happens, you know. So it wasn't until after that and until Nrf2 activation that I realised that it was adrenal fatigue. And that's basically where your adrenals start to shut down, and your adrenals run everything. You know, they are a hormone that your body needs a lot of. And if it's not in balance and if it's not working properly, it is fatigued and your body breaks down and you start to get very fatigued from that. But also things like exercise. So I gave up exercise because I got so sore, and I would do one workout and I'd be sore for nearly a whole week. Now that shows my body wasn't recovering properly, but it also showed that obviously the adrenal fatigue was coming into play, because the fatigue that was coming with exercise, I was like, I can't exercise because for 2 days later I feel like absolute hell. And then for nearly a whole week later, I'm still sore. Like, what's going on here? So I gave up exercise. And so that, not only that, but colds and flus, you know, I used to have a bad immunity. I'd have a cold, it would last for a week or 2. And I'm like, this is not normal either, you know, but I just took all of this as just normal life issues from a mid-20s onwards. You know, I didn't think of this as something that was such a big deal. And I used to also have rosacea on my face. So rosacea is like broken capillaries, dry spots, it's a skin issue. They're basically some of the health issues and health background I had. So
there was actually like a lot of warning signs that your health wasn't very good. But I think a lot of people just learn to live with it and expect that that's how you should feel and just deal with it. Yeah. So then you had obviously heard about Nrf2 activation. So when and how did you hear about it?
So it was basically in June of 2015. We had moved to the Sunshine Coast that February. I knew that my girls were getting old enough that I wanted to do something financially for myself, or have something as a hobby or an interest at least, or a passion for something when my girls were asleep or they're happily playing and all that sort of stuff. And so I went looking for different home businesses. I was out there looking for things to do from home, but I also knew that I needed help with my health. And then this Facebook post came up and it said something about an information session with nutraceuticals. And I had no idea what nutraceuticals were at that time. And I was like, I'm going to Google this. And when you Google it, it says any food component used for medicinal purposes through a dietary supplement. And I was like, okay, that sounds all right, because to me, a dietary supplement is something that is food, but it's also a natural compound. And I've always been more natural focused than medications and things. And so I'm like, I'm going to go along to that. And then from that, they were talking about oxidative stress. And we know now oxidative stress is the root cause to nearly all diseases and conditions. And it was only a few years earlier than that my father-in-law had passed away from motor neurone disease. And that was on the list that they gave me at this information session, that motor neurone disease had this huge link to oxidative stress, and that it could have been the root cause for that. And that's when I was like, that's why I'm here. You know, oh my goodness, this is why I'm here.
Did you think when you first heard about it, it sounds like you were pretty excited?
I had no idea what oxidative stress was. I went and did my own research for about 3 days, but I was still skeptical. So I went home and literally had my iPad and nothing else was allowed to be in my area for 3 days. And I just looked and searched, and that was basically, that's how I heard about it.
Made you decided to get started on Nrf2 Activation?
Oh, it was the science and the credibility. So when I went out there and I researched this Nrf2 Activation and that this scientist created this product around that, I was like, oh my goodness, the fact that it's also on PubMed, which is the National Library of Medicine for the National Institute of Health in the USA. And I was like, why do people not know about this? But that credibility and that science was what blew my mind. It just made sense to me. It aligned with me, and it really made me like a gut feeling that this was what I needed to do. So the credibility and the science was huge.
And when did you notice your first result?
3 weeks I noticed, and this shows that there was something going on in my body, because the first 2 weeks I had shocking sleep. It was obviously like a detox phase. I had shocking sleep, I had restless days. But then from then on, at 3 weeks, as soon as my head hit the pillow, I was asleep. As soon as I was awake, I was up and ready to go. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, I've never felt like this. And then my energy in the day, you know, I was running around with my kids again. And at 3 o'clock, I was like, is it 3 o'clock? I can't, what? Like, you know, I couldn't believe it was 3 o'clock and I didn't feel that fatigue start to come on, you know, that real, where you get that low energy at that time of day. I looked at the clock and was like, oh, far out, this is amazing. You know, I'm still going, and nothing was pulling me down or making me want to sit on the couch and fall asleep. And so, and just realizing I was probably sleeping deeper, because I wouldn't have had so much energy in the day, and I wouldn't have woken up so fresh and revived if I wasn't having a deeper sleep. So obviously that all comes down to deeper sleep.
Is there anything else that you have noticed since being Nrf2 activated and reducing your oxidative stress?
Oh, yes.
All right,
go through the whole list.
Yep, the whole list. I'd love to know.
How long do we have? No, so obviously, like I said, the sleep, the energy, that still happens. You know, I've been on this Nrf2 activation now for 2.5 years, and I still wake up refreshed and ready to go. I still go to, like, as soon as my head hits the pillow, I'm asleep. And at 3 o'clock, I'm still going, and I'm still going at 10 o'clock at night. But I've got to be careful of that, because when you have adrenal fatigue, you've really got to listen to your body, and you're meant to. The body clock shuts itself down, especially the adrenal hormones start to shut down at 10 p.m. at night. The other thing is better moods, and I'm not as cranky or snappy in the day. So I've always been someone with quite a short fuse and really low patience. But since Nrf2 activation, my patience level has expanded massively, and I don't have those snappy moods anymore. It feels like I can control my moods a lot more. So little things don't worry me as much, you know, or little things that used to make me so hot-headed don't do that anymore. And so that's a really big one for me, and that's a really big one for my kids. They don't have to have a snappy mum anymore, you know. And then the other one is obviously that lower back pain. I don't ever get lower back pain anymore unless I've been sitting for a long time. I don't have any of that inflammation in the lower back anymore, which is incredible for me, because I used to have it, you know, constantly through certain weeks in the month and that sort of thing. But The other thing is less hair falling out and shinier hair. My hairdresser even said today, look how shiny your hair is, she was saying. And so that's been a big one. But the other one is colds and flus. So I can get a cold or a flu now that lasts for a day or two, and that's it. Like, I never get anything more than that. Oh, and better recovery from exercise. That's huge for me. So I've gone back to exercising, and now I'm only sore for that 2 to 3 days, which is what it's meant to be. And I'm not as sore either. You know, I'm actually, my body's recovering better. It's repairing itself more. And this is huge for me, because I used to hate exercise because exercise was it was more of a burden, and it was something I didn't enjoy because of how it made me feel afterwards. I'd feel fatigued. I'd actually feel, very run down for many days. And like I said, I'd be sore for a long time. So I was like, what is the point in this? This one was pointed out to me by one of my amazing business partners and best friends. Was the scar down my chest from my open heart surgery is not as pink anymore. And I'm like, what? And she showed me some photos, and I was like, oh my goodness. And you'll see that the scar down my chest now is faded, and it more looks skin tone like the rest of my skin. And that is due to, the scar tissue being reduced. We know that Nrf2 activation reduces scar tissue. And I'm like, oh, this is amazing. That's probably it. Thanks, Karen.
Is that all? Wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So that's literally been so life-changing. And I know for someone as a mum with 2 young girls who are at home with you, even just the energy that you've been able to gain back, like that alone is life-changing. But then all these other things, being able to enjoy the gym again, and things you didn't even realize. That's amazing. If there's anyone who's watching this and would like to get started on Nrf2 activation but aren't too sure, what would you say to them?
I'm a big advocate for mums, especially because I used to think that being a fatigued, low energy mum was normal. So now, if mum's not healthy, and if mum's not at her optimal health and her highest quality of life, how can she expect the rest of the family to be that? So I know that oxidative stress affects everyone, and every person, every animal, your dog, your cat, your horse, everyone has oxidative stress. So I highly recommend that anyone does Nrf2 activation for themselves. But my biggest advocate is those mums, because that was me. I thought that my normal was everyone's normal. And if you think that some things that I've said are things that are affecting you, and you're not at your optimal health, and you're not at your highest quality of life, we all want better quality of life, right? And if you're reducing oxidative stress, you can absolutely have a better quality of life. And so my message to you is, why would you not want to try that for yourself and your family? If you're thinking about this, or you're consciously going, I wonder what that would do for me, just try it. 4 months, 6 months, whatever, just give it a go, and you will no doubt have those benefits like I do, and that big list I've got written here.
Fantastic message. Thank you so much, Janelle. So if you're watching and you do want any information on our favorite Nrf2 activation, just drop something in the comments and we will be in touch with you. Enjoy the rest of your week, everybody. Thanks, Janelle. Bye, everyone.
Bye.